Greetings, citizen. In you come. So we've got the checkpoint here, where we offer you the Dark Times book, which is your user's guide to all the things that you're about to see. This installation here, the aquarium was already in the building. It was a great opportunity to use it. I was intending to put AI babies in prams and cots, but to have this already here with the idea that it was a test tube lab where you just manufacture babies for data storage was great. I painted this one as well. It's kind of to give a physical thing to go alongside the dollies. Kim Von Coles painted this, and it seemed very fitting. She said you got the wires as well as the womb kind of effect, fetal position. It's all in the book. Yeah, this was called Fetus, which is about really putting your fetus on Facebook, which is at some point a person that might not want their data stored by a third company. So I was trying to capture that in something that someone could buy, because I don't expect people to buy these Amazon dollies. You can ring me though if you want one. I've got friggin' 30 of them. This was by Lisa, who does the street art in town with the chalk. She did this piece, Styles of Somerset, and I really liked it, and it seemed perfect to go next to the AI babies. This is the first piece in a series that I did. It's called And the Chain Got a Little Bit Shorter and the Cage Got a Little Bit Smaller. And pretty much it was about feeling like a rabbit in a snare during April 2020. And it's my attempt at capturing that. It's got a little ank on its forehead. And again, with the installations, I wanted to try and do a painting, and then some of them I've tried to make 3D as well. So here's a little bunny, clearly fucked. Which brings us to this one, which is called Hegemony, and it's to do with the flow of information, flow of ideas, pretty much like hegemonic cultural control. I did write a poem on the back, but I don't think we can read it, and it didn't make it to the book. But it was something like from a few to many that make up the one, which means when you're born into a society that are made up of many people who are told what to think by many people who are told what to think by a few people, you're going to be caught up in a web. Which leads us to the second piece, which kind of glows in the dark up here. Maybe I should have got the torch. Yeah, your torch might do it, John. This is called Demonology. It's called Ideology and Demonology, which is to branch off of hegemonomics, but also open up the idea that evil can worm its way into the minds of the few, the many, and then the many through such, like the 7 deadly sins are a pretty good, like, rounded way of seeing how people can just get possessed by greed or gluttony or whatever. This one was called the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which is a real place right next to the meat market, where apparently it just appeared from a bat that did something to, something else, and then everyone got really sick. But right next to that meat lab is a real lab which develops viruses. One of them being COVID, but apparently the files were pulled. But the Washington Post and many others have put information out showing that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was heavily invested in developing COVID strains. But that is, I'm trying to bring about a discussion about like Chernobyl, and like Chernobyl was tried to covered up, and it was for a week or so, and then it was pretty obvious what had happened. and maybe one day it'll be pretty obvious what happened. It may have just come from an animal, but at the moment no one knows what animal it came from other than a bat, and bats are predominantly used in lab experiments, especially out there. This one, I always get the name of it slightly ballsed up. This one is called Blood Sacrifice and Tribal Ritual, which is to bring about discussion on cultural practices to do with magic and protection, and what we're going through at the moment as a kind of vaccine culture, like all under one needle culture, as a way of protecting ourselves from what's come about through this. But actually there are potentially other cultural ways to deal with this. But you know, for a big debate, it's like, well, who's got the net interest in this? And that's where the tribal ritual comes in, because if you study hegemonomics, if you study ideology, then it's pretty obvious that there's a few at the top that seem to be benefiting a lot from the fallout of this bio-spill, if you will. Chloe did this one. It is no measure of a person to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society, which is attributed to Krishnamurti. And I'd say Chloe spent a good fortnight in a hospital with her dad, where he was offered Coca-Cola and other things that just seemed like kind of an oxymoron for a hospital to be offering so much like white flour, white sugar, and it actually helped another piece later. But it is to bring about discussion on if we're a sick society, and you're adjusted in that, then have you actually solved the problem? You know, like putting a Band-Aid on, you know, your arm being cut off. Like taking Valium for depression isn't necessarily dealing with why you have depression. It's just numbing the pain. It's also UV, that's why that green's popping. This one is by Julia, and it is called, Chloe's is called Well Adjusted. Julia's is called End of an Empire, and she's bought a Roman banquet right up to modern day, and this Roman banquet was 15 million, like back then. And she's kind of marrying it with our westernized culture, or like industrialized culture of just gluttony. It's extremely uncomfortable and powerful piece. I think some of the characters that she's drawn and painted in, she found them all via typing into Google, just like kind of obscene things that people were doing with food, and here they all are just ramming their faces with different types of food. The banquet itself was around a zodiac table, so Cancer there was loads of seafood, for Leo there was an actual lion, which has brought a lovely bounce to this piece over here, which is called, and this has an actor on the live nights that we've done, an actor actually walking around as death. But You Are What You Eat is the name of this, and it's kind of a relationship between hunter and prey, but also to talk about potentially if we're just eating garbage, then we become garbage. If we eat bad death, then we become bad death. And that's got a karmatic imprint. Great. And that You Are What You Eat leads over to this one, which is Read Between the White Lines, which again is to do with the mass production of cheap white sugar, cheap white flour, cheap white salt, and the actual damage that it does to individuals. We've got it in a good old Spinoza ethics book, and pretty much we've been handing out to anyone we can cheap white flour, cheap white sugar, cheap white salt. The idea is to try and get kids addicted to it, and by the time they're in their middle ages they'll have health problems, and we'll be able to sell them health through other channels as well. This is another station that on the nights that were live would have someone actually weighing and bagging up the silver, spoon, sugar and all that jazz, and then distributing it to some of the other militarized areas like the checkpoint you saw at the beginning. And that's what this big druggy bag is full of. Yeah, and then this one, I guess, is the end of that kind of series, which started with Julia's, which was great for Julia to want to get something off of her chest and out of her head about gluttony, you know, and like mad slaughter of animals. And it led to this one, which is Holy Cow, which is hence the little Hindu dot up the top, which is you know, hopefully to bring about a bit of a discussion on like the mass slaughter of animals and the indifference that it's taken on. The style of the gun is the one from No Country for Old Men, where he used a cattle gun to just wipe out humans, a cattle bolt gun I think it's called, but it was like his homemade one. And I want that to be similar. Like, it's kind of psychotic that we murder animals so blindly, if we settle down and look at it through a different lens other than our stomach. This one is called Pinch, Freedom is Slavery. And I really just wanted to try and have a pincer movement on kind of light and like this kind of orb. Lovely kind of accident, the glow in the dark cracked on the water-based UV. So, I mean, it's actually like the pincer movement, which is in this nice metallic green, is actually splitting this kind of orb of hope or freedom. And that is to do, well, it's to do with the human rights laws that have been thrown out in various countries. Some countries have never really had the human rights laws that we have, which is not okay, but certain democratic countries are like walking a very fine line at the moment between where the lines of illusion of freedom lie for me. You know, I kind of feel like there's always an incarceration, but at the moment that incarceration is being pinched, predominantly through the global climate change crisis, and that kind of like narrative and the COVID narrative. So between the two, we're going to lose our freedom of travel, which you all know about right now, you know, freedom of movement, which you all know about right now. And it's going on, and there might be mainstream narratives as to why the COVID and global warming, you know, like we need to do less, consume less, move less. But the way in which it's going about is potentially a bit insidious, a bit being, an understatement. Which leads to this one, which is also kind of complementary to the pinch. And again, I always can't quite get this all out in one go. The Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill, which is a real thing. And I just wrote underneath, one day Jesus will peacefully protest the injustice of the state. He will be arrested, demonized, and shanked in prison. And so it's the idea that now and in the future, you'll be able to be arrested for protesting peacefully if it is deemed by the state, well, it's deemed by the police on the scene, like actually we can arrest you and we can therefore incarcerate you. And once you're behind those closed doors, you don't know what buttons could be pushed to then add up the sentence, you know? And yeah, I mean, there's like, you know, I'm not going to go off on one, but there's many cases where you can, once someone's in the prison system, it's very hard to get them out. And as we know, it's also pretty easy for someone to die in the prison system and it not be investigated. So to get rid of the human right to protest is, like, again, it's a very dangerous thing to have that freedom pinched. These ones we'll get back to, as well as our humble cameraman John's piece. We'll get back to that. This is John Minshall's piece. It's called Slayer, and it's to do with Kali. And again, it's next to John's piece and this curtain because it's to do with the death of the ego of which in this space, fear and kind of just going along with the flock are parts of that. Unchallenged consumerism, unchallenged states of authority. This Kali can slay that, whether you like it or not, really. That's the power of Kali. This one is Rory's, Rory Allen's. These two are from Heart of the Tribe, as well as Kim's piece. I was really glad that Kim and the other Heart of the Tribe crew were up for trusting me with their work. Yeah, this one's called Flat Earth Summit, which is quite a tongue-in-cheek dig, but the more you look at it, the more Rory has mangled together myth and conspiracy and truth, and kind of shown that melee of a world that we're in. These ones are just straight up shout out to my mum. My mum did these, RKS. This one's called Eve, and this one's called Femme Fatale. And again, like using the different light in here and the way people shine their torches completely bring about, yeah, exactly. Like you realise quite how much glass is in there and how many colours. And then this is the next piece put in by Kim. So Kim's a photographer, but she's also a street artist, stencilist. So this is one of her prints, which just seemed very fitting, the skeleton in the room of death, in the room of darkness, set over winter. These two are by Cuss One, who's our homeboy Scooby. Shout outs to Scoob. The lower one is called Tormented, and the other one is called Uprising. It's great to have some kind of canvas street art. These are reoccurring characters that Scooby puts up as Cuss One. This is Gina's. I'm really glad Gina was able to get these pieces back off of someone to bring them in, like one in this room, one in the other room. And this one, I think, reflected her 2020, but she's pulled through, I'm glad to say. This is Games with No Winners. And as all her pieces, it's extremely intricate and extremely UV. So I'll give a big shout out to MOA UK. Really glad that DMK and ISM were able to make it up here the weekend before the exhibition started, and it was always really the intention to have half the wall hanging, you know, high quality art, and then the other half high quality graph. I mean, the guys, because they're so good, they whipped it up, chucked in the UV kind of, you know, instinctively, knowing that there's going to be some UV in here. So we've got a plague doctor from DMK, a modernised plague doctor, and then yeah, this piece which complements the installation just down here, which is the screen is a mirror. So we've got the cctv here, which kind of opens you up into this screen is a mirror echo chamber that is, you really, whatever you watch, whatever you look at, the chances are it's your own self-interest. You don't really watch things you don't like, but within that you get trapped in a kind of narcissist pool, which is what I've tried to build here. This is completely made out of screens, which then has a mirror tape on top, so that you can actually stand over and look into it like the original Narcissist myth. And above it, hanging awesomely, is this Boswell piece, Glimmers in a Shadow World, which again is to do with technology and organic matter colliding, which is now is the future kind of narrative that is happening. You know, biotech is looming. Just here as well, the couple of sculptures by Noro, and this is a risk for reward, especially like this one with the barbed wire, because they're all to do with going out and being a street artist really, and a graffiti artist. I think certainly the barbed wire is a nod to being a graffiti artist, like you've got to climb over some dangerous shit to hit the walls you want. So again, really glad to have that in kind of physical graph salute. This is just a sea of remote controls and mobile phones, all mirrors. And then we kind of spew into the next section, which is War is Peace. We got MI5 and MI6 shredded documents, plenty of shotgun shells. And then just here is a shell with the name of the station, War is Peace, and a thermos flask which is going to be moved out of the way. Ah, my tea, excellent. These books here lead on to the next station, which is Ignorance is Strength, and we've been burning ideas that within the dark space, within this dark time, we don't want anymore. So a bit like the 1984 incinerator, to incinerate the idea of care, to incinerate the idea of dancing. You know, if you can take it out of a language, which again is an old colonial thing, take the language away. You take away the ideas of what that means. And we've been donated so many books that we have literally just now been burning books, which has been pretty therapeutic, really. Like, I feel like quite a few of these trees would much rather have been firewood than the books that they become. The tree might have just wanted to grow, but if it had a choice, I reckon it would rather be firewood. So it has been, and we've been holding the space for almost a week now. That burner has been solid, very, very happy with that. Here are a few other books that are up for burning, but we're not actually going to burn them because I don't actually want to censor a philosophy dictionary. I don't want to censor anti-cancer, but within the framework of this room, that would be what we wanted. Like, you don't want people knowing about Foucault. You don't need that. You need people knowing about Strictly Come Dancing. You don't need people knowing about a renewable world. You need people knowing about I'm a celebrity, whatever. This is just a joyful little gun turret that Cuzzy Ben built. On the live nights, we've got a laser on the front, which has been really powerful, to be honest, to actually just kind of have a swivel machine gun turret, like minigun turret. A few people in review have said that they clocked the dot just following other people. And that leads us into a little kind of information download section, which I won't go on too much about, but if I just say, this one's to do with the World Economic Forum, which like quite openly states like it's in a hierarchy and the founding members are the top of the hierarchy and they're businesses. So businesses, governments answer to businesses within this economic forum. And interestingly, like, there's a lot of health interest, and this is running up to 2019. That these major conglomerates start becoming interested in how to manage globalized health, which is obviously going on very much right now. This one's right back to home. This one's the Covert Human Intelligence Sources Criminal Conduct Act of 2021, and it's just putting in more laws that verify certain actions spies have been doing anyway. I mean, it was interesting kind of studying it because those that are in favor of it are like, well, you know, this James Bond culture that's kind of celebrated by that idea of James Bond. Like we have agents all over the world right now, and they are breaking the law, other people's laws and our own, like here, to try and get an end result. What that end result is and whether that's our interests, like, going to help us, that's another story. But it's certainly verifying and putting into law the fact that a spy is given the rights to break a law. They have to ask for permission first, but if I was undercover and I needed to turn a blind eye to someone being tortured or raped, I'd be signed off. Like, I don't have to step in because I'm undercover while that person is raped, which is a mad thing. Like, it's a mad thing that's the world that we live in. That's how polluted we are as collection of cultures, and how polluted we are as the people at the top. They have to Russia, China, America, Britain, Germany. We're all shaking hands and spying on each other at the same time. It's fucking nuts. I imagine if I was doing that to you, John, that'd be fucking nuts. This is literally just from my gran, saving me some papers for a couple of months, and it became the newspaper was for the bundles of money, but it very much became its own piece because every front page was horrific, and the idea that it's known, but it keeps forgetting to be challenged, that we are constantly bombarding ourselves with negativity. It doesn't have to be these narratives every single fucking week. It's we can't do anything right. And imagine that's how people feel, unconsciously. My gran's, that's the thing that she sees. And if you understand the magic of words, then, yeah, this is dodgy, to say the least. This is a little add-on to the War is Peace section. I wanted to bring about a kind of understanding of just quite how far China's ballistic and cruise missiles can reach, but also India's. And for me, we don't have a say on what happens between China and India. And if they kick off, then it's a fucking mess. Same with Iran. And this is how many weapons, these are the countries we export weapons to. I mean, this is why we're still one of the top economies in the world, is because we sell warfare, and that's here. We might be able to create a kind of pretend Soviet checkpoint, but we sell to countries that actually have these checkpoints and use these weapons on the people that are being checked, consistently being dehumanized. This is about the billions that was wasted on Afghani buildings and vehicles. And this one's about airstrikes on civilians. So it's pretty heavy shit. It's all, a click of the button away, but it's probably easier to just watch Netflix. Which leads us really to the last part of the dark space, in the top of this hegemonic pyramid that I've kind of created, which is a borderline between truth and paranoia. And I really want to just blur that line. And those that study occultism and the esoteric arts, those that look into the activities of some of the 1%, it's very hard to poo-poo the idea that there's some black intent put forth through plutocrats' will. There you are, soundbite that. So yeah, man, that's really the dark space. Maybe, actually, there is just one more sculpture as well. That piece was called Black Mass as well. And originally, the original plan was to, in the center, have a black mass that just stretched everywhere, but it would have been a trip hazard and a variety of other headaches. So we abandoned it and put a planet on a plinth instead. Our planet. This one's called Jester, Fool, Joker, and it was by Celia. And it was carved in reaction to her dad joining a religious cult, which is one of the major religious cults of Earth, really. I'm not going to say which one, because as far as she's concerned, they're all cults. It's just once you've got enough money, you become a religion. So her dad joined a cult as far as she's concerned. And this is torturous. I mean, it is a torturous piece. And that's it until we go into the light. So I'll take you over and see John's piece in a second. I'm going to talk to Bin Skankers over there.
And you're rolling.
So, pow. That's nice, illuminating the trees. It's a good start. I called these Yin and Yang. I got them from the market in Glastonbury, and they're beautiful as they are, really. But I needed the monoliths as kind of pillars into, and again, if you know kind of esoteric stuff like black and white, these two pillars, like natural pillars that lead you into another space, which is where our humble cameraman John, or our homie Ange, has been playing Hermes, not the Greek geezer, the origins of that Greek geezer, like Thoth, and that story. Very much worth knowing. So you go past Yin and Yang. This one glows in the dark loads as well. Like when we turn off all the lights, it pops. And our humble cameraman John painted this especially for Dark Times, especially for this portal between the two worlds, and that also glows in the dark. Crazy good when I turn all the lights off. Shout out to Karen's sister who made this for me years ago, but the opportunity to use it as part of the portal was pretty cool, because it's black and white. And so once you've passed Hermes, you've moved into the light. The idea being that the suppression of the last room is completely lifted, even though physically the space here is smaller. We got a dragon here by a local artist, Nick. It's completely made out of driftwood, I think. Maybe these aren't, but it is pretty much all driftwood. We've got some of our books on the table, some crystals, candles. We wanted this room to be as light and as natural as possible, and open up things like abstract. These are Claire's art, which capture fractal movement, really, or chaos theory. We've got a meditation chair here. We had a little golden baby, kind of a baby that was actually donated to us yellow, so it seemed fitting to kind of make it like a golden child, like some uncorrupted innocence, as opposed to the other room. It's actually wrapped in an Om blanket as well. Donna did this natural mandala, all out of natural materials. She does mandalas for Star Child, and she also did one of the pieces over here. We'll get to that. This is a dragon by Anthony, who's from Wookiee Hole. Known Anthony and Debs for years now. Had a couple of his dragons in the shop as well. I'm going to take you to... Didn't really discuss the unicorns that were in chains in the other room, but there's two unicorns chained up, and the piece with the Covert Intelligence Act bill, that shows the royal crest, which has a unicorn with a crown and a chain around its neck, which again in symbolism to kind of incarcerate what I think is like magic or imagination is interesting, like freedom, like that freedom of what a unicorn represents to chain it. But Nick here out of Driftwood has made an unchained unicorn. This little section's just tribute to nature, but also I think the ethos of the space, but something that really helped me just build the thing was wabi sabi, which is to kind of have a zen flow and an acceptance in the mistakes. And so we went to Cornwall and on the beach found all these beautiful pebbles, which to me, like, they, you know, if they were painted on a massive canvas and put in the Louvre, they'd be worth thousands, but nature produces them just because. This piece was a recycled piece, which I wanted to use because of the wabi-sabi theme, but also because I just wanted to put something in the book about syntax, which really is referencing from a film called Pi, like the realization that it's what's between information that gives interpretation to reality. Like without the syntax between semiotics, there wouldn't really be meaning. And we have meditation, which has been a live station that's been used more than just the main nights. It's actually been really rewarding to build a light space and people want to come and use it for calm beyond the nights that were theatrical. And the idea really with the meditation is just like there's an intention in the other room for control, there's an ability to control yourself and therefore not really let others control you. This is another piece by Celia. It was Wind Spirit. And this is a John Minchell piece as well. I was really flattered that John came up and saw what we were building as we were constructing it, and offered to put something in the Lightroom, because I'd already asked him if we could put the Slayer in the darkroom because of the story of Kali. And this one is Emergence, which is the emergence of pure consciousness through vibration. So again, it was nice to know that I could make the room and have it complementing the meditation station opposite it. This one is Boo, I do believe, B-O-O. That's by Rowena Draper, who, again, known for years, so we still sell her cards and prints in the shop. But to get a couple of originals up here, really I only wanted originals in the space, so that was part of that wabi-sabi thing. Like, it's actually the organic relationship between the artist and the material. So the other piece is called Broken China, and it was about a myth of a girl that had her arms ripped off, I think, but she eventually finds her power on her own and her arms grow back. It's a little one called Home, just using Claire's abstract paint work. Just wanted to put put a little nod to where we all live, really, which is the Isles of Avalon. This is Gina's other piece that she put in, and it's called Connected, and she did this once she was starting to feel better, I think. The thing about Gina's work is it looks digital, but this is all brush stroke, pen stroke. It's extremely intricate, and yeah, under a UV light is epic. Good. Again, shout out to Mum. These are a couple more. Glassfiti, which is glass graffiti. The idea of a non-permanence as glass has. Eventually, everything fades. So one's called Harlequin, the silver one's Harlequin, and the bronzy gold one is called Phoenix. This one was by Chloe and is called Continence, which is a word that, funnily, like we're just erasing words in the other room. This is a word that you can't find anymore, but I don't know if you can see that word, John. That is a word worth looking up. This is by Donna, who did the natural mandala. So this is, I think it's a clay, wood, leaves and oxide mounted on a board, spiral, probably a nice salute to the golden ratio and all of those sorts of things, the relationship between maths and creation. And these ones are by Ash, pretty much just metallic green and metallic blue on black card. He's a phenomenal artist, and again all hand drawn, which has blown quite a few people's minds. This one is called Be All and Seal, and the other one that he put in is called Birth of Meaning. And I'm glad, like, the people that have come to an art exhibition, not just come to a like dystopian fun house, have really appreciated seeing the effort made by all of the artists. But to see something that complex for free in Glastonbury, it kind of shows just the range of artists that we have, like, in our humble little town. And this is the final piece in this room. We've kind of done a loop back to front, and then if we were part of the exhibition audience, we'd then leave through that door and then loop round, and you've got to pass through the dark again to get to the light, like a dystopian fun house, which is something I've been saying. This is the final piece. This is called Sovereignty, and this was one of mine. I didn't really feel the need to overwhelm the light space with art. It might just be because I'm such a negative fuck, but I feel like the positive stuff's, already out there. The scriptures are out there right now. There's some stuff happening, and I feel like it's not being seen or it's not being discussed. But really, the sovereignty is a heart, and these are actually the arteries and veins, but as a crown. So really, if the heart develops, I think 18 to 20 days into being a fetus, and that's your kingdom, and I think that's a Christian thing as well. I started to realize that that's the thing about the Jesus heart, it's like sovereignty, and it's a land of, through things like meditation and the if you look into the light and do the light, then really that kingdom of the heart is extremely hard to crush. Certainly if you're able to control yourself and control your mind through what feels like right. For me, it's your gut, your heart and your mind. You need to listen to all three. But yeah, certainly with sovereignty, I think the mind can easily be possessed. In your heart what's right and wrong. And then I think Chloe wrote this just as an immediate impact after so much negative words in the other room. Just so people walk in and immediately, and she said herself and Julia that have held this space along with Sam and Tim, like people have just uplifted. Like the minute they walk in here, they are safe again, because it's been triggering for some people. Like some people don't want to look into the dark. Some people had absolutely no idea what they were walking into. But for me, I've been wading through this since pre 9/11, and then 9/11 happened. So, you know, the Iraq War, Afghanistan, the list can go on and on of like just this negative barrage on us as a species. And the last couple of years have been fucking nuts. So yeah, really, like it's an opportunity for me to try and like explain some things through an artistic manner, because that's the only weapon I feel I have, and an opportunity to try and, you know, put on a proper art exhibition with my mates, including our humble cameraman John, and I think we've done that. We've put on a proper art exhibition and also pushed a few buttons that probably needed pushing. So yeah, nice one, mate.